So then coming up, we'll have Mrs. Peggy Kwon to share more from a perspective of teacher in a school setting in Hong Kong. And I think she'll answer some of the questions around how to really deal with the students, how to keep them motivated, because I'm aware that Peggy has actually spent more than 10 weeks on each exercise with her class, which is pretty unimaginable, right? Before Peggy starts, maybe I can quickly give a quick background on the Hong Kong secondary education, especially for those who are not from Hong Kong. So basically, although there are also international schools that adopt international curriculum, say the IBDP or IGCE curriculum in Hong Kong, the majority of secondary school, or what we call the local school in Hong Kong, are under the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education program. Basically, the school is divided into the junior forms, secondary 1 to 3, and the senior forms, secondary 4 to 6, which are the age group of about 15 to 17, I would say. So for the secondary form students, they will have to choose the elective subjects for which they would take for the local public examination by the end of their secondary 6th year. So visual arts is one of the elective for the senior form students to choose from. So for the visual arts requirement, apart from the exam paper itself, the student would also have to do something called the school-based assessment, or what we call the SBA, for which they would choose their own topic to work on for almost 3 years. So under this SBA, they would do their own research, develop their own portfolio, and then finally create 4 pieces of artworks. So this SBA contributes to 50% of the final score of the public exam. So Peggy is going to share with us her experience of working with her secondary 4 and 5 classes on some of the artist exercise. So Peggy is a very experienced educator in Hong Kong, and she has been working with us for almost 10 years now as one of our members of the AAA Teacher Standing Board. So we're very happy to have Peggy here, so I'll pass the time to Peggy.
So nice to meet you all. I'm Peggy. Okay, so is that okay? Listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So maybe I will change to that first. All right. Okay. So that's my experience in using artist exercise during the pandemic school suspension period from the early March to the end of April. So let's begin. Okay. I've used Chung Ping's exercise connecting the pieces of everyday life in level Form 4 students. And they are a class of 12 students taking visual arts as their elective subjects, as Samantha told you. And first of all, I followed his suggestions to ask the students to record their habits of their family, and if possible, to have an interview with them and take a record and with the text, maps, etc. And then secondly, I also showed them some examples of a digital archive and encouraged them to collect pictures, drawings, and of their own, and hopefully they will create their own digital archive. And why do I choose this exercise? Because at the very beginning of the school suspension, there are not many artist exercise at that time, and AAA responds very quickly, and so that I picked a few artist exercise from AAA and start my teaching. Okay, so everyday life is more approachable and accessible for Form 4 students. And with that, I can understand their present situation and give them guidance and so forth. Art is life, life is art. This idea matches with our original Form 4 curriculum unit design. That's why I choose Gender Pink's exercise. So these are some of my students' works, and you can see a few maps of on the screen, and they are the roots of the family that showing that the father or mother went to the supermarket, to the pharmacy, and then went back home, and just like a loop again every day to buy the sanitary items every day. So everyone has limited themselves to a certain route. And on the left-hand side, you can see one of my students draw the map that show that this is the path that he get used to every day, that he eats pizza every day, 3 times per day. Though it seems like very weird, but he enjoys it very much. And then go to play the computer and online game, and then go back on his bed and play the game again, and eating again and again. So the right hand side, you can see another student. On the right-hand side, the student told me that he stayed in his bed most of the time in each day, doing so many things in his bed, including having 3 times of meals, and taking online lessons, playing online games, etc. He only meets his parents in the dining room on the way to toilet. So this is another example of my student, and she filled up the floor plan with some color, and so that I was very excited, and I just introduced her to know that Mondrian's painting. So hopefully she will make her own artwork with this idea, but she's just stopped it. Okay, and second one is Mifi, and she also starts with a very simple map and then enrich with some colors and icons. That is very interesting. But I found that my students didn't work very well with that project, because they didn't show much interest to go on with their works. So they didn't want to know more about their family members, and neither did they know how to care about their families and make it into an artwork. So that's why I turned to another exercise. I try to do some more small exercise instead of go on with this exercise. First of all, I make use of shadowology, and these are some artworks, photos that are made by my students. And secondly, I showed them some useful computer softwares to let them have some chances to improve their drawing skills. And finally, I turned to the experiment of scenes. It is suggested by Beatrice, and that is the phase 2 project. And many of my students don't know what to do next. So that I give them some instructions that they can choose among those 4 categories. Say, for example, they can draw from their dreams, they can get some ideas from their experience, they can have draw something about their habits, and they can also show their feelings in the same book. So that, next. And these are some of the symbol design. So they are telling their own stories, and they are more interested in telling them their own stories rather than the previous make use of the daily objects. So why do I choose this exercise? Because I liked the name experiments. Because the name experiment, that means making mistake is totally okay and it's part of their learning process. So that I also showed them more examples that include skillful pieces made by 6 years kids or so to improve their drawing confidence. And I ask them to start with some simple tools that make them more confident with it. So it is the pencils, black fine line markers, etc. And also it suits their own interests. But the most important of all, there's no communication with their family at all, so that they feel more easy and comfortable now. And for Form 5 students, I've showed them the Loyok Moist exercise, the Lovers 1988-2020. And I start with this project, this exercise, because I will explain later, okay? But then at last, it becomes a cross-curricular collaboration. So I will divide it, the exercise into 3 aspects. The first one is from empathy to self-awareness, and the second is from poetry to art making, and the third is from performance art to feelings. So first of all is from empathy to self-awareness, and let them watch the video. Wuhan doctor quarantines herself from family, and her husband lights up her way to work each night. It is a very touching short video, and I also follow the instructions of guided questions that's suggested by the artist, and they have a very good discussion, and I let them focus on the distance, how distance affects their emotions. And many of them share their feelings and response to the video, and also response to the situation that at present, so that they are more emotional. So one of them even cried in the Zoom, but of course he didn't show his face, but we note that. And the reasons behind is at the very beginning, this is a class that suffers a lot from the school suspension. They are more mature, and that's why they are more emotional. They are very quiet at the beginning. And 60 numbers of students in class, there are 4 black holes. That means black holes, that means no any response. They just mute their sound, switch off the video. When I ask their name, they show no response and didn't answer any questions. But there's one student accidentally switch on the video, and so that we know that he's sleeping by accident a few times, really. And they are very low motivation. I mean, most of the students are miserable at a loss at that time. So I stopped them from doing the DSE's school-based assessment works, and used Loyok Moist artist exercise to turn to their inner world. And I want them to pay attention to their own feelings and emotions rather than just doing SBA works. So I start with a masterpiece of artwork, I can say, is that's suggested by the artist, and this is Yoko Ono's Light piece. It is a playful instructional poems, and very beautiful art piece. And they appreciate it, and so that I invite my Chinese colleagues and to conduct the lesson, and he taught them the knowledge of writing poem and guided them to appreciate some beautiful pieces of poems. And also, okay, that is the students' work. They create the poems, and I asked them to take a photo to express their feelings that that is matched with the poem. So these two two of the photos that made by them, and the poems created by the student. And one of the students, she had a very poor relationship with her family. But then after this exercise, she realized that her father only showed his love and care through small actions, such as giving her a glass of water, so that that makes her aware something that becomes more happier than after this exercise. And at that time, I showed them the examples of the paintings that derived from the poems too, so that let them understand that if they create the poem, write the poem, and they also can make the pictures, make the paintings or other kinds of artworks, so that they can have a further development of their poems or photos later on. And last but not least, Marina Ule's, this is a very good example of distance. The Lovers, the Great War. And I let them see, watch the whole video, and and also facilitate a discussion among them. And they understand that after the 19 days walk from each end of the Great War, the two lovers meet each other. The distance physically is very close, but their relationship ends. And this is how this is very a new thing to them, to reflect on what is the distance among two people. And okay, so one of the black hole respond. He wrote a poem at last, and I was very happy with it, and because finally it saved one black hole. And so my concern in using the artist exercise are the first one at the top list is emotional support and psychological needs of my students, because at this pandemic suspension period, my students feedbacks like that, helpless. They are helpless, lonely, sense of powerlessness. During the Zoom, they will express their feeling. And I should choose to find the most suitable curriculum for different levels of students. For example, Form 4 students, I would like to choose the artist exercise based on some basic skills and for creating artworks, and also can encourage them to use their creative minds. And more hands-on working experience they would need, and they will have, and more straightforward, and prepare more exercises. And for Form 5 students, I would like them to learn from the artists and be more expressive, more inward feelings, so that I choose Wu Han's video, Yoko Ono's piece, and Marina and Wu Lei's performance art. And I modify the artist exercise from time to time to suit their needs. So, well, I think I would tell, when I review the whole teaching period during the COVID-19 struck, I would say that no matter we like it or not, we have shifted to a digital teaching era. So I have taught them quite many softwares during this pandemic. Autodesk Sketchbook, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, and Procreate to draw the illustration and animation, something like that. And I think I need to provide more choices for students that from different classes, so that they can choose by their depending according to the financial situation. First of all, desktop, laptop, the few thousands of Hong Kong dollars welcome, and tablets with iPad, cheapest one, and with 78 Hong Kong dollars of app appropriate, or the cheapest one, mobile phone and Autodesk sketchbook free, and with their finger. Because some of my students still using mobile phone in the whole course of online learning, even now. So they didn't buy the computer until now. Well, and second thing is I need a bunch of YouTube videos, and because I feel like the lecturer or DJ in the Zoom lessons non-stop talking for almost 19% of time, and talking to myself, self-talk, and for 1 hour and 20 minutes each lesson. So I need to play the videos to show them more, instead of showing by myself. That is, I think, more effective in learning. And more IT support should be provided, such as a stable network connection, PC, laptop, visualizers, softwares, apps, etc. And I will show you one of my students' progress. At the beginning, before the suspension, at the left-hand side, she drew this comic picture. And in the middle of the suspension period, she changed the drawing tools to online digital. And the right-hand side is the digital drawing of her recent product, recent artwork. That's not yet finished, but I think you can see the progress. She has much improvement in it. And finally, I will show you some students' work that after the class resumption in May and June, my Form 4 students have finished their design in Simbook in class and printed them out. And I'm happy to see that they go on develop the postcard with use of digital printing method and risograph, and or even post it in the Instagram. So that's the end of my presentation. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Peggy, for your very in-depth sharing. We have a quick question from Sonia about the time frame. So you mentioned that each visual arts lesson is around 1 hour and 20 minutes. So how many lessons, around how many lessons have you spent for each exercise with the students?
I think for Form 4 students, I've spent about 16 lessons. And for during the suspension period. But for the Form 5 students, the first 4 period, I taught them art history. But of course, it based on a certain theme that I designed for them. So, but after those 4 lessons, I feel like they are very abnormal. You know, they stop talking. They are very quiet. Just wait for your instruction and tell them what to do. Really like something I can't express. It's very abnormal anyway. So that I stopped teaching and I try to grab something from AAA. I'm very happy, and I finally find some useful exercise to trigger them to have some response. And I'm very happy to see that after the artist exercise, they are more active and lively, and become really wants to say something about their feelings or emotion like that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So I'm also aware that you're not only doing the artist exercise as an extra kind of assignment or activities with your students, but you're integrating them into your, well, how can I say, regular teaching?
Yes. Yes, because when I choose the artist exercise, I will consider what will match with my existing school-based curriculum. So, for example, I would pick Zhang Ping's exercise and also the maybe Beatrice exercise that may have some elements in the that is useful for curriculum for our curriculum. Say, for example, will need some drawing skills in the Form 4 level. They will need to start with some daily objects to create the artworks, so that matches all the curriculum. And also, I think that is the most important thing is we know that as teacher, we know better than the artists that we understand our students' standard, so that when we choose all those exercise, then we can tailor made for them and suit their needs. Okay.
Good. And we have a question from Nikita. If Nikita, can you unmute yourself? And thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So I basically teach in Kashmir, which is a conflict zone. And I've had a lot of trouble also motivating the students. And I use something similar to tap into their feelings and move away from the curriculum. And I ask them to make GIFs or by downloading an app. Now, what I wanted to ask was, what is the class size that you generally work with? Because I realized I was initially working with 40 students, but then just smaller groups was easier to mentor them more personally according to their immediate needs. So I was just wondering, does that eat up a lot of your time? Like, how many hours are you teaching in a day generally?
Okay. So yeah, they are from Form 4 and Form 5 students. So the class size will be smaller than usual. For Form 1 to Form 3 students, we have about 33 about 33 students in each class. So I taught, yeah, I've tried, I really have the problem same like you. When I teach Form 3 students, 33 students, oh, sorry, more than 33, because there are some students go in the class, and I asked them, no, not 33, correct. 4 classes of 33. That means 130, about 130 students in each level. I taught the whole level, Form 3 students. They didn't show much response when I teach them to use the software, and because this is the easiest way to teach them during the school suspension, step by step, how to use the digital software to finish an artwork. I know that, but after the lesson, there are a few class students stay here and discuss with me. They are maybe they are shy, but they really have some questions, and they will have make use of the chat room to raise up their questions, so that I know that they are interested in the teaching topics. And also I make use of some visualizer. I make use by visualizer. I do the demonstration, so that let them understand how to draw comic, or how to do something with your hand, rather than in a virtual way. So I think visualizer is very useful in online teaching. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we also have a question from Prachi. If you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks for the talk. That was wonderful. One thing that I gathered from your talk and also from Nilanjana's talk is how important continuity is to art, because like you mentioned, how some of your students progressed over like during the pandemic period, and how you worked on an activity for several classes. Now, I work at a library, and achieving that kind of continuity is a very difficult task, because we don't have that kind of a structure. We don't have a classroom structure. Students are not obligated to come into the library every day. They may choose to come today and then maybe they will come a week later. So how do you see activities like that being adapted into a library-based program where achieving continuity in terms of structure, time schedule, and also in terms of the group that you're working with is very hard to maintain?
So, well, I, 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 what can I say? I'm not so sure I can answer your questions, but can you, well, Samantha, can you rephrase the question? I'm can't hear really very clearly.
Yeah. Prachi, you were asking about the continuity, right?
Yeah, maybe I can repeat. So what Pachi was asking is, since Peggy have chance to have every lesson with the same group of students, so that's why Peggy can keep teaching the same topic, etc. Because Pachi is teaching or facilitating educational program in the library setting. So some student may come today, some may not come tomorrow, some may come. So it's very irregular. So do you have any suggestion how to handle this kind of irregular class? Yeah.
Well, irregular class. Okay, so well, okay. I drop down the progress of each lesson, and maybe the irregular class. I think still have the curriculum framework. So that I think the most of all is most important of all is what do you want to teach them, and if there are some students this time may join in and next time disappear. Maybe next time, what can you do with these students and provide the activities for them to do and to keep on the lessons. So that I think it is quite. I'm not sure this is the question for me, but I think is it for another artist? Yeah.
In Ajana, do you have experience that when you work with community or different groups, how could you handle similar situation?
When it's not a very formal structure, or they don't have to come every time, it's not compulsory, so very durational and long-term exercise will obviously not work, because every day you'll be struggling to bring everyone on the same page. There I sometimes feel to break down these exercises and do as one module works, like the way we work in our workshops. So we get a group only for between 2 hours to maximum 3 hours, but 2 hours. So we do that, and if we see even above 50% kids have come back the next day, then we take step 2, then step 3, or sometimes we do only that much, or we take one new topic every time, and together they form something which is a whole. So these related durational will not work in Prachi's case. So probably you have to think of breaking all these related exercise into one of focus.
So may I add a few words, because in the Zoom online lesson for my students, I really have some small exercise, just because they didn't show up sometimes. Yeah, they didn't show up sometimes, and they sometimes they didn't hand in their homework. You know, most of them may they not like to submit the homework. This is the very big trouble for us, and so that every time when I teach them a small exercise, I will drop down and have a checklist. What they hand, how many students hand in this homework, or how many students didn't show up, so that for next time start another small lessons, small exercise, they have no problem in catch up with the lessons.
Thank you, Ninajana, and thank you, Peggy. So I'm a bit aware of time. I think we have one last question from Aurora here for Peggy. So would you say that you focus to teach skills or style of modern or contemporary arts, or would you say that you teach both of them?
Oh, I would teach. I think contemporary art more than the modern art. Well, I think because for Form 4 students, you can see I use a sim book and also the the daily objects. So these are the popular way to start the contemporary art artworks. So I think so match with the contemporary art artist information that I have. So I think I rather say that I will teach contemporary art, and for Form 5 students, these are all the examples that I choose from the AAA or the website. I think most of them are from contemporary arts too. So I would say that more contemporary art, but I didn't give up any kind of art, include the classical art or modern art. I still teach them, but will be later like that.